And good day. Thank you for joining us. I am Tamara Scott. You are listening to Tamara Scott Live with Truth for Our Time. We help you when the headlines hit home. We help you. I would tell you know God's word in today's world, but a lot of times we talk about other issues as well. And today might be one of those days. We're going to talk, and we're going to go straight to our guest. A lot of information to get to you on the Common Core. As you know, we deal with this quite often on this show, and it continues to be a battle until all children are safe in the classroom. We're going to continue to talk about it and understand that once Common Core is defeated, and hopefully that is the case soon, we'll have to still be on guard because it's not the first time we've had an assault on learning in the classroom. It's just one of a long line of many. And so as parents and as guardians of our liberty, we need to be very, very careful of what's taking place in our classroom and even more careful of what's happening in front of our children and going into their minds. So joining me today, I'm very pleased to announce Jane Robbins. Jane has been a guest on this show previously. She is an attorney. She is a senior fellow with the American Principles Project, and you've seen her quite often in regards to Common Core. Also joining me is Larry Krieger, and I hope I'm saying Larry's name right. Just met Larry yesterday on phone, but I'm already hearing about him. And Larry, I did a little Google search, and you have quite kind regards online with some information that you have written helping people pass the AP history test. One gentleman said that it was a must-read and that they could read your book in 8 hours, and he read every page twice. But it was a must-read to get through the AP history exam. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you and Jane.
Now tell me, Larry, for our listeners, where, I think, are you a professor?
No, I'm a retired teacher. I lived in New Jersey for 27 years, and my wife and I moved a year ago, and we currently live in Pennsylvania, just across the Delaware River, not too far from where Washington crossed the Delaware.
Very good. Wonderful. Well, all right. So, Jane, thank you so much for joining us today as well.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
We appreciate, Jane. You have been a leader on this issue. You were one of the first out of the gate talking about it with the American Principles Project. You were also working, I think, with Tanya Diddy. I've seen the videos that some of the videos that you've worked on. I know in Georgia, Tanya has put out an alert. Something is happening in Georgia. Can you update our listeners on that?
Well, with respect to the AP U.S. history problem, Tanya and I both will be testifying before the Georgia State Board of Education on Friday, and we don't have a lot of time, but we will have the chance to raise the issue. We're putting together informational packets for all of the board members, and we've been in touch with a couple of the board members to tell them that this is happening through AP history. This is a continuation of what's been going on with Common Core, which is the gradual takeover of curriculum in the schools. And if they can't do it through Common Core, they will do it through AP courses. And most people have no idea this is happening. So we hope to raise the alarm with the state board on Friday.
All right. And I also have the notice from Texas. Do either of you have an update? Can you fill us in on what's happening in Texas?
We have been working with a Texas State Board member whose name is Ken Mercer, who has written about this problem as well and posted online about it. And he is definitely a leader there. He's trying to get it on the agenda at their meeting on Friday, and he has talked with the chairman of the State Board about it. We also know that there is some resistance to allowing him to introduce his resolution requiring or demanding that the college board take this course back for a year, retracted, so that they can rewrite it. But they told him he could bring up the issue. And then the other thing we know is that people in the college board are nervous about it because they have wanted to talk with him to try to let him hear both sides, as they say. But we don't have any information yet on meetings that have happened.
Okay. And then I did just get an update in the middle of the night last night from Missouri, Gretchen Logue, that the Governor Nixon had signed a bill there. Does anybody have an update on that, what that's going to do in Missouri?
I have not had time to look at the Missouri bill yet. As I understand it, it's one of these bills that says we are going to review our standards, our English and math standards under Common Core. And I believe in Missouri that they're saying, but we will still use Common Core while this is being done. I'm not sure if that's the case because I just really haven't had an opportunity to look at it yet.
Yeah, I appreciate that myself as well. But I think it's always good news when we see one of these announcements that a governor is signing a bill.
Definitely.
And it's put out, the alert is put out by one of our friends. We can know that things are happening. There is unrest, great unrest. And I think Oklahoma, we have an update as well. The Supreme Court upheld the law. Was it the law that the governor recently signed there?
Yes, that was a huge victory. The legislation in Oklahoma is probably the best, the tightest bill that we've had to be able to get through a legislature. And after a great deal of grassroots encouragement, Governor Fallin signed the bill, and then immediately the National Association of School Boards went to court to challenge it, to claim that the legislature had no right constitutionally in Oklahoma to interfere with what the state board was doing. And so we were watching this case very, very closely. And the Oklahoma Supreme Court heard arguments yesterday and issued an immediate order which said the legislature is within its constitutional authority to do that. So they have the parents and the citizens of Oklahoma have won a great victory.
They absolutely have, and I want to get to our topic at hand, but I want folks to understand the gravity, both couple of sides here, the gravity of, first off, this lawsuit being filed, Jane, by the State Board of Education. Correct me on this, or help our listeners understand this, but the legislature passed a bill to repeal and reject the Common Core standards. The State Board of Education then filed a suit to stop it. So the bureaucrats in the state were trying to stop what the people and the legislators who are elected to represent the people, they're the ones who are called to make law, and the bureaucrats are trying to stop the will of the people, basically.
It was actually the National Association of School Boards. It was an outside group.
Okay.
But they came in, and they had threatened before the bill was even passed that if you pass this, we will challenge it. But everything that you said about it is correct. These are all bureaucrats, and they definitely wanted to keep Common Core in by hook or by crook, and it doesn't really matter what the people of Oklahoma want, that it has to be their way or the highway. And yesterday that argument lost.
It's terrific for everyone. That's a celebration. So no matter where you're listening from, whether you're listening online with us live on Wednesday, or we'll start taping here a little bit for the American Family Radio portion of this show, which is 6:30 p.m. Sunday evenings on American Family Radio stations, and we're so thankful to partner with them. We want to get this information out to everyone. If you have not yet heard of Common Core, we'll bring you up to date a little bit today, but we're probably going to jump in more to the middle of it to understand this latest AP history push and what we're seeing on the exams. But you can always get more information, and we can help you get more information and connect you with folks if you have questions. So Jane and Larry, I don't know who wants to kind of take us off on this topic, but you both have written an article. Breitbart.com has your article. Big Government is the name of it, the new AP US history exam. And just for everyone out there on Twitter, if you want to follow along, APUSH, AP US history. APUSH is a great hashtag in order to find new articles and the latest on this topic. So kind of start us out on this.
Well, Larry was the one who first contacted me several months ago about what he was seeing with AP US history. So, Larry, why don't you tell Tamara what happened and how you came to be concerned about this?
Well, as Tamara mentioned, I have taught over 35 years, and I've also written several AP American history textbooks and AP US history prep books. So I was keenly interested in what I thought would be a very modest updating, refinement of the AP US history curriculum. It's important to point out that at least 500,000 students in American high schools take this course. 86% of them are juniors, and just 4% are seniors. and this is the future leadership generation of our country. I expected, frankly, a little updating, thought they'd push things up to the year 2000, little refining here and there. That's what I heard would take place. I was shocked, of course, when I downloaded a 98-page document replacing the 5-page topical outline that had been in force for many years. And so I started to read the document. The more I read, the more disheartened I was. When I finished reading it, the first thought that jumped into my mind was, this is a curricular coup. The second thought was, oh my God, Howard Zinn must have written this. He'd be overjoyed.
And for our listeners, give us a brief background and bio on Howard Zinn.
Well, Howard Zinn has passed away recently. He's the author of a book called The People's History of the United States. It sold over 1 million copies. Its penetration of the mindset of American teachers, both in the high schools and in college, is much, much, much greater than people realize, although I think they're starting to realize it now with Dinesh D'Souza's book and film documenting this. Basically, Zinn takes a very negative view of American history. American history is a history of oppressors and exploiters. It's a history of theft, plunder. He has very little, if anything, good to say about American history, and neither does the framework, as a matter of fact. And my third thought was, wow, I've got to speak out. I've got to say something. I would not personally want to teach this course, nor would I want to teach it to my kids. Normally, I have to say this because the College Board has noted that I'm a prolific author. So I need to say up front that normally when curriculum changed, like when they changed the SAT, that's really good for authors because it means a second edition or a third edition of the book. But in this case, it was very evident to me, number one, I wouldn't want to teach it, and number two, it should not be taught to our kids. And so the question was, well, what to do? It's just me. A retired teacher, but still I teach a large number of kids. I tutor them and teach them. I was actually researching Common Core, and that's when I saw on YouTube Jane's marvelous series on Common Core, and that's what led me to Jane.
Absolutely. And I want to come back to something you said, Larry. You weren't sure what you could do, being one person. In other words, you didn't have the head. You weren't the head of a great organization with a lot of networking. I want to take that to everybody out there listening, because I think from time to time, each of us will have something in our gut, a sense of something that is a concern for us. And too often we're concerned about it, but we don't do anything about it because we expect the experts to already have it under control, or because we're not maybe an expert or don't have a degree in that field, we don't feel qualified. And so I would just say to everyone out there, if you have a feeling like that, if you get a sense of something like Larry has, maybe you're the one who's supposed to make it an issue, draw attention to it so that others learn about it as well. I'm asking you, please no longer in this country, whether it's politics, education, health care, don't wait for the experts. You have to speak up now in this country on all issues, on all fronts. Okay, so what would you like to take on next? You want to take on the curriculum itself? You want to take on the AP test? Last week we were honored to have Dr. Ellen Wald join us, and she's with VerityEducate.org, and they simply go through textbooks in high schools, in colleges, and they just evaluate them on the basis of bias, accuracy, and of course their work has grown and increased greatly in the last decades as we've seen much more bias happening in our high schools and colleges in the classrooms. And so we were talking last week about the Declaration of Independence not being your father's Declaration of Independence as far as it's being taught.
Yes, in the framework, what you see is a couple of things, really. The Declaration of Independence is mentioned once, it's mentioned as part of one clause of one sentence. There is no thorough discussion of the principles behind the Declaration of Independence. And when you look at the way that the framework treats the Revolutionary War and the victory in the War for Independence, it says that victory came because we had foreign help and because the Americans believed in the superiority of their principles. But when you look at all of the discussion before that, what were those principles? The principles that the framework lays out that supposedly were the foundation of America were principles such as racial superiority, cultural superiority, that sort of thing. So when it gets to the Declaration and then the people believed in the superiority of their principles, those are the principles that will be in the minds of the students, because those are the ones that have been emphasized all the way up to that point in the course.
And this has been a concern for a while for those in the political field, trying to figure out how they're going to protect their party's majorities. And here's the deal. When people are not taught, when students are not taught the truth of this country, the foundational truths of this country, then any candidate that's espousing those same values is not going to register with these students. It won't matter what party, it won't matter what they get out the vote, it won't matter the money raised, because unless these students are taught the very benefits and the very foundational values that made this country strong, they're not going to be drawn to a candidate that's espousing those. No,
and in fact, they will be vulnerable to the charge that anybody who is espousing those values is radical, is far right or whatever. And that's what we see. People are these are fringe candidates because they believe in exactly what Madison and Jefferson and Adams and Washington believed. But if the kids don't understand what Madison and Jefferson and Washington believed, then they're more vulnerable to that sort of snookering.
And so just recently we celebrated July 4th. I often walk in parades with groups, various organizations, and I'll tell you, it has bothered me more and more when I see folks sitting along the side with their hands out, waiting for someone to give them candy. That's often what we do in a parade, right? But it's become more of a symbol of what is wrong with this country. Too many people sitting along the sides with their hand up, waiting for somebody to walk by and give them what they want. And even more to the point, we can't even throw the candy anymore. We have to walk up and hand it and put it in their hand in several parades. And if it's not exactly what they like, they're not happy. They want something different. And it just, to me, is a great analogy for what's happening in America. But I started asking these kids on the parade route, do you know what we're celebrating today? Do you know what document we celebrate today? They did not. They were stunned, and you could see this look of horror on their parents' face when they realized they might have to answer, and they weren't sure either. Our parents, our people today simply don't know what has made this country great. And so we're going to get into this in the next couple of minutes here. We're going to come back and we'll be with our American Family Radio listeners. And so we'll be talking about this more in depth. But I want you to understand that this isn't just about curriculum. This just isn't about education. This is about the hope and the future of our country by understanding the past of it. And so Jane Robbins is my guest with the American Principles Project. Larry, am I saying your name correctly, Krieger or Krieger?
It's Krieger.
Krieger, Larry Krieger, who is a retired history teacher and a well-respected author on history and AP history exams and books, writing the books to help with exams. So we'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors. We want to thank our sponsors. We want to thank Christians for America. Christians for America, CRAVE is another name for that organization, for coming alongside and helping us be on air and give this program to you. And so we'll be right back. Stay tuned after these messages.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershad.
I am administrative manager.
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're going to do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed rider it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you going to say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm going to take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed rider, it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
Restoring hope, open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope.
And I am Tamara Scott. Thank you for staying tuned with us. For those of you who have been listening online in our Wednesday 10 a.m. program on webcast1live.com. And for those of you who are listening on air on radio across the nation with American Family Radio, it's our pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for staying tuned. The show that we're sharing airtime with is J. Michael McCoy, Restoring Hope. And how fitting, actually, I think, that we get to have part of this half hour. It's a little bit different than the half hour that we have with Mac and the testimonials and the folks and the stories that you hear. But if you don't have hope, you don't have a future. And if we can't give you the truth and help you, one of the missions of this show is helping you when the headlines hit home. And that's how we give you hope, by being able to give you the information so that you can adequately be prepared and protect your home, stand firm, and do what's right for your family, what's best for your kids, and what's long-term best for our nation with the information we give you. So joining me today is Jane Robbins. She is a senior fellow with American Principles Project and an attorney. And Larry Krieger. Larry is a retired history teacher out of Pennsylvania, but also a well-respected author, several books dealing with history. And right now we're talking about the AP History course. And this, of course, comes to us from the curriculum, the core curriculum, or being aligned with the core curriculum program that's coming down. So, Jane, if you just want to kind of start our listeners who might be joining us for this part, but how does this fit in? We had the standards for the English literature. We had the standards for the math. We knew that they were not up to snuff, that they were less than what many schools and states had in place. The history standards, the concern is greater even, I would say, than just not being up to snuff.
Well, the English standards from the Common Core include history, actually, because it goes beyond English. It also includes something they call literacy in various subjects such as social studies. So this is the way they bring in content from other areas into the English class. But the AP course is is separate from that in one sense, but in another sense, it's as Larry said, it's a curricular coup that is happening with some of the same cast of characters and some of the same techniques, because David Coleman was the man who wrote essentially the Common Core English standards. And shortly after he finished doing that, he was hired by the College Board to be their president. So it was under his authority that this new AP U.S. History framework was released. And it accomplishes the same thing, really, that Common Core did through the means of just setting this, supposedly setting a framework or setting standards. It will control what is taught in certain courses in high school, or in the case of Common Core, in lower grades as well. So it's the same sort of thing, and we hear the same defenses from the College Board that we hear all the time about Common Core. Oh, well, it's just standards. The curriculum will be controlled by the states, by the communities. But that's really not true, and Larry can explain why that's not true, specifically with respect to AP U.S. History.
Yeah, and Larry, I want you to do that. And I want to also, our listeners need to understand, no matter how you school your child, homeschool, private school, Christian school, this AP History, Larry, if you're going to take the exam, you'll have to have your information, or at least be able to write the answers that they're looking for on this exam, no matter how you might have been taught.
They're very specific. In the framework, they specifically say that no topic outside the framework will be tested on the exam. We should point out the exams are given in May, and they're very important. They're on a 5-point scale. If you get a 5 or a 4, you're virtually assured of college credit, which can be worth thousands of dollars to a family. And, of course, a 5 or a 4, only 10% get a 5, 20% get a 4, are prestigious scores, which greatly enhance your resume for college admission. Given the fact that many teachers are judged by how well their students do on this important test, we can expect that the teachers will be teaching to the test. And the test is absolutely, unequivocally, they're very unequivocal about this, anchored in the framework. And the framework itself, I have a nice little quote here from Stanley Kurtz, who writes for the National Review online, and he's one of many commentators and scholars in the last 2 weeks who have taken our call to heart, looked at this framework, and what are they saying? And he said, quote, "The College Board is pushing U.S. history as far to the left as it can get away with." And we certainly agree with that. And in the Washington Post, just a couple days ago, David Green wrote, "It is a dark view of a nation built on aggressive, racist imperialism, theft, and genocide." And that's exactly what they test on the exam.
Okay, so can you give us some examples? Because let's help people understand it. This isn't just the liberal versus the progressives as far as a political view. Give us some examples. Yes,
well, that is an extremely interesting point. Normally, let me explain. In the past, we had 7 released exams with 600 released multiple choice questions, and we had AP Central with over 400 graded and discussed essay examples. 2 weeks ago or so, the College Board released, quote unquote, their first sample exam for this new test. But they didn't publicly release it. It was sent only to their, quote, audit teachers. And it came with very severe restrictions, which Jane and I have been, which are quoted on the Georgia web page. Suffice it to say that the teachers are categorically told that exams may not be posted on school or personal websites, nor electronically redistributed for any reason. Any additional distribution is in violation of the College Board's copyright policies, and there are consequences to that. Now, I have to tell you that I do have a copy of the exam. And I can tell you, I have to speak in sort of general terms. They're keeping it, but let's say this: they're keeping it secret.
So,
For what are actually very good reasons when you actually read it.
help us understand
the
this,
public
Larry.
can't scrutinize this exam.
Well, okay, so they're going to say that they're keeping it secret because obviously you want kids to be tested. You don't want to have.
No. That's not the case. This is a sample exam. They want the teachers can give it to the kids. This is just a sample. It's just a practice.
So there's no reason.
No, they are in fact told specifically that they can distribute it to students for practice, but then must recollect it.
And so you got a copy, and I want people to understand too the fact that this is copywritten. Jane, have these tests been copywritten in the past?
Larry would have to answer that. I'm really not sure.
The answer is yes, but they have been freely available. Not freely. They've been for sale on the College Board's online store.
Okay.
So for $25, anybody could buy a release test.
And so for $25, that's really to repay the people who did the work. We get that fee. But this, you're saying there are restrictions, and you're almost threatened if you allow it
Not
out.
almost threatened. You are threatened. I summed it up because you are threatened. You're threatened with the termination, not only you, but you and your school. If you distribute this to somebody, it will result in the termination of practice exam access for your school, as well as the removal of access to other online services such as the AP Teacher Community, and, get this, online score reports. That's how the school receives the AP scores of all their students. So the teacher is told, in essence, you violate our copyright, and we just may not send the AP results for all your students on all the tests to your school. So you may ask, what are they keeping secret?
Well, I do want to ask that, but I don't want to say what's going through my mind is how this makes me. It's so similar and so eerie to things that we've heard about in historical times, recent history, World War II, when people were threatened. If someone did something wrong, the whole group paid the price. So, so what are they hiding, Larry?
They're hiding several things. First and foremost, we know that this curriculum, this framework, is not aligned with state curriculum guides. Jane and I have done several correlations. The College Board, in fact, commissioned its own correlations, and it's just simply not aligned, nor would you expect it to be. No state or local school district would ever have a board that would adopt this. So they know that. So they've come up with a fiction, and the fiction is what we call the flexibility doctrine. And this is what the teachers in Texas are hearing right now, even as we speak. They're being told, go ahead, teach your old course, teach your examples, because we, in our infinite wisdom, and I'm paraphrasing them, will construct questions so cleverly that if you do the Alamo, or you do George Patton, or you do the Sherman's March to the Sea, you'll be able to bring that into our test, into your test. So you see, we can have it both ways. What this test does, it belies that notion. The test conclusively proves that the questions are, in fact, drawn from the framework, that there are no heroes tested on this test, no great American achievements. It's rooted very firmly, anchored very firmly in the framework. And what you see is, and Jane and I have written an article which will be published soon, in which we completely debunked this flexibility doctrine based on the nature of the test. 40% of the test is 55 multiple choice questions. So those are fixed. I don't want to get too technical, except to say that giving the most charitable interpretation, it might be possible for 10% maybe of the test to have some flexibility, owing to the very nature of the test itself. So if I'm a teacher, I'm going to teach to the test, and I'm going to teach this framework because that is what they're testing, and that's what they don't want to be released right now, because if people saw this, they would see the bias. It's this, and I'll give you one example, a left-wing bias. they would also see that their flexibility doctrine is simply disingenuous.
One thing, Tamara, I would mention that the College Board on its website, on its AP U.S. History website, says, well, in fact, in the framework, I believe it's page 2 of the framework, says in bold type that students will not be required to know anything outside this framework for the test.
Wow.
They say that the framework is the universe of test questions.
Here's that quote, and this is in bold. Beginning with the May 2015 AP U.S. History exam, no AP U.S. History exam questions will require students to know historical content that falls outside this concept outline. Now, you asked for an example. Here's one. One of the questions has a brief quote from Reagan's famous speech, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. We all remember that inspiring moment. Jane and I have written an article about how the framework treats President Reagan. The question wants to know, Reagan's speech best reflects. The answer is, quote, increased assertiveness and bellicosity, which is actually very consistent with what they say in the framework, right, Jane? It's that he's bellicose.
That Ronald. Yeah, they clearly indicate that Reagan may have had something to do with the end of the Cold War, but it wasn't any of his actual policies, which were bellicose, but that he finally eased up a little bit and became friends with Gorbachev.
Oh, you think?
No, we're totally serious about this.
Yes, we do not make this up.
So for all of our listeners out there, it's not that he built up the military first.
Oh, no.
No, they say in spite of that, he was able to work with Gorbachev to end the Cold War when they became friends.
Okay, and I was on page 31 or 34, excuse me, and I'll try to get back.
I'll give you the page in just a second.
Okay, well, I was already getting aggravated with some of the other things I was reading.
Yeah, guarantee. It's on page 66.
Okay.
President Ronald Reagan, who initially rejected détente with increased defense spending, military action, and bellicose rhetoric. Now, there's that word bellicose, which notice is the answer on the test. See the correlation between test and framework. Later developed a friendly relationship with Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev, leading to significant arms reductions by both sides. So there you have it. Once he became friendly and a good buddy with the true hero in this story, Gorbachev, well, then there was, of course, a thaw, and things worked out pretty well. Note how this question's answer is directly linked to the framework. Yes, you're on those earlier pages.
I am.
Jane made a super point. And what are the principles of America? Well, you're reading. White superiority,
right,
mentioned directly several times. I can't imagine saying that in a classroom. I just can't imagine that. Slavery, a rigid racial hierarchy, and on it goes.
And I want to really help people understand this is we're not making this up. This is on the AP, the new AP U.S. History exam that all high schoolers will take. Well, not all. Excuse me. Advanced placement high schoolers who have
500,000 students
who have studied, taken the extra time, the extra work with these AP classes, and hope to get college credit, will now be forced to answer questions, in my opinion, Larry, inappropriately according to our history, inaccurate according to our history,
yes,
but with a severe left bias, a progressive bias, in order to get admissions, in order to get scholarships, in order to get credit for their AP. So, okay, I have people asking me, is this what they're trying to do to keep Christians out of colleges or make it more difficult for them to get in?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Although I will say this, the treatment of religion, I was asked about that just the other day, is really quite interesting. The discussion of the colonial period, let's say up to the Constitution, is heavily focused on slavery and conflict with the Indians. Now, okay, slavery happened, and there was conflict with the Indians. No one denies that, and Jane and I both agree it should be taught. We don't want to whitewash American history.
Sure.
At the same time, what you won't find is a discussion of the rise of democratic institutions in this country. There's House of Burgesses, New England town meetings, not there. You won't find, as Crevecoeur said, what is this America? This rich mix, unprecedented rich mix of ethnic groups. And finally, to the point on religion, historically, the AP course and test have in fact asked about America's unique contribution to world history is called religious freedom. Where did this come from? Why in this country do we have religious freedom? One of the greatest contributions of the United States to world history. Just not there. Recall John Winthrop's City on a Hill sermon.
Right.
That was actually the first thing I noticed was missing, because I'm like, that's how I always would start my course, with the City on a Hill. It's not there. Winthrop's gone. The New England Puritans are given short shift. Roger Williams, who spoke out and said, we should have religious freedom, and they said, well, goodbye, go to Rhode Island, which was founded for dissidents, is missing from the test.
What about George Mason, who is responsible for our 10 Bill of Rights, the 10 amendments?
George Mason, James Madison, Ben Franklin are all missing. Jane made an extremely good comment the other day when she said, this is about groups. Their focus is about groups, especially racial, sexual, minority groups, and conflict. You would read this document and not one single individual would stand out in your mind. They're not interested in individuals, especially people of courage and conviction like James Madison and our framers and the authors of the Bill of Rights. They have no interest in that at all. Believe it or not, Dr. King's not mentioned in this document either.
Martin Luther King?
That's correct. Martin Luther King is not in this
individual.
Right.
They do not focus on individual achievement, individual courage, or extraordinary actions by individuals. It is all about groups, and it's all about conflict.
For those of you who are listening, if you want to join in the conversation, the phone number is 855-244-0077, 855-244-0077. I haven't really been paying attention to the chat line because I'm so engrossed in this document, media.collegeboard.com. This is the framework that Larry and Jane are talking about. Jane, what you're talking when you're saying that they're going for the groups, this is what we've been seeing, again, back to the political, and I'm not trying to make this political, but this is exactly what we're dealing with in America right now in the political realm. This is why we see the division that is so great and dividing in our country, when we wonder, will we ever be able to come back together again behind one president and behind a movement? I am not sure when you have this happening K through college, and now you'll have college exams forcing students to even write it, whether they agree with it or not. This, when you put people in groups, you diminish the individual significance. You diminish, first off, you give power to the group, and we lose our identity and our power as people. But you can pit groups against each other, which is what we're seeing, and I think that's what you're talking about as well with the conflict. And when you pit people against each other, you isolate them, you marginalize them, because you polarize them. And that's what we're seeing. And now you're saying it will be ingrained through the curriculum of the AP classes.
Unless people speak out soon, your listeners need to call up their boards of education and political representatives, bring this to their attention. The most persuasive thing of all is the document itself.
Is this 90-some page document the framework? That's what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's available for free at AP Central. You can just go to the College Board site, AP Central. Go to U.S. History, and it's right there. It's not hard to find, and you can certainly call it up online and document it. Here's something really interesting. There's a mounting chorus of critics now, a number of articles. If your readers just simply Google David Coleman and AP U.S. History, they'll be amazed at all the negative articles that have come out. As of this morning, we are unaware of one single article in full support of this framework, or really any support of this framework. It lacks defenders in the College Board. To the best of our knowledge at this moment, we keep waiting for some sort of defense, has yet to issue a statement defending this document.
For those of you who are listening, we will be continuing this conversation. If you want to hear more beyond what you're hearing on the radio, you'll be able to hear on American Family Radio. You can go to the archives. If you'll just simply go to Tamara Scott Live on YouTube, we have the archives of every show there for you. And the document that Larry just mentioned, I have already put up on a link on the Truth for Our Time Facebook page, Truth for Our Time Facebook page. And I will also put it on the Stop Common Core Iowa page as well. And then, Larry, you said it's at the AP Central?
Yes. Readers should just simply go, it's called AP Central. And then what they want is click on U.S. History. And when you go to U.S. History, you'll see it says the AP United States History Curriculum Framework, and you just click on that.
And I so appreciate what you're challenging, what you're instructing parents to do. And I don't care if you have kids in the school or not. If you're a taxpayer and you care anything about this country, you need to be in contact with your elected officials at the state level, with your state school board officials, those folks who sit on the state school board, but also with your local district school board members. They may not even be aware that this is taking place. That the Common Core was slipped in every state without the legislator's approval. And correct me if I'm wrong on that, Jane, but it didn't go through the processes that we usually have the standards come through for academics. We're going to take a break here. We're going to allow our sponsors to have time. And when we come back, we'll be with our online audience again. But again, for those of you who would like to get the archive, I encourage you to go to Tamara Scott Live on YouTube so that you can get this information to your friends and neighbors as well. Understand it. You're responsible for the children God gave you. We're responsible for the freedom we have as a nation. One of the Websters said, liberty is given only to those who will be vigilant and guard it. And we are at that call right now. So I thank my sponsors, Christians for America, Crave. We thank those folks for being alongside with us. And we ask you to stay tuned and join the later part of this conversation with us. We'll be right back. Jane Robbins is my guest. Larry Krieger is my guest. I am Tamara Scott with Truth for Your Time, helping you when the headlines hit home.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit! You're our hero!
Hey, what's wrong? Logan wants Let's Rock Elmo for his birthday, but since Steve lost his job, I don't think we can afford it. What did you do for money last year when you and John were struggling to make ends meet?
My secret? I went to Me and Mommy to Be. We sold all of Megan and Ryan's clothes and toys there. They give back the highest percentage on their items in the area, and it was so easy.
Megan's clothes? She's 15.
Yes, they can sign newborn through trendy teens. We're not struggling now, but I'm going to keep saving and making money at Me and Mommy to Be.
Metro Ford's on everywhere. Metro Ford's on everywhere.
See 'em here, see 'em there. You got bad credit? We don't care.
Metro Ford's on everywhere. Metro Ford's on everywhere.
Visit emetroford.com for your guaranteed credit approval. Good credit, bad credit, no credit. Everybody drives with guaranteed credit approval at emetroford.com.
Metro Ford's on everywhere.
Visit emetroford.com today.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's Amco on Hickman Road in front of Kmart. And it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give Amco on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
And I am Tamara Scott. Thank you for staying tuned with us on Truth for Our Time, Tamara Scott Live, helping you live God's Word in today's world when the headlines hit home. Talking with Jane Robbins, attorney, senior fellow with the American Principles Project, one of the first groups out on this issue. She, working with Concerned Women for America's State Director, Tanya Diddy. I know that they work together on some of those videos that Larry Krieger, our other guest. Larry is a retired teacher out of Pennsylvania, history teacher, also an authoritarian, I would think it's safe to say, on history, U.S. history and the U.S. AP history classes, the advanced placement classes and exams, the information that has been required on those for years. As I read in one of our earlier portions of the program, he was greatly credited with helping students study for those exams. Tanya Diddy, the state director for Concerned Women for America, has been involved in this. If you are looking for information and a way to get involved, American Principles Project is always has great information available. Concerned Women for America has directors in each state. You can find that person to help you. Get on the website at the national level, CWFA.org, CWFA.org, Concerned Women for America. And Larry or Jane, is there any other resources you would have people look at for this particular topic besides the AP Central and the framework, which I do have on the Truth for Our Time Facebook page, and I'll put it right now on the Stop Common Core Iowa Facebook page with the orange profile picture?
Well, one place,
the Georgia site.
Yeah, the Georgia site. We are trying to, on our Georgia Common Core site, we are trying to keep a running track of everything that is going on, and we've got a lot of good information, including just a fact sheet there. That site is called georgia.stopcommoncore.com. And we're trying to keep that updated all the time so that you can go there and find out what's the latest thing that's happening.
Is Georgia spelled out?
Yes, Georgia is spelled out, georgia.stopcommoncore.com.
Very good. Thank you so much. So we were talking about some of the examples, and Larry, I had read through that document that you had given me, and it was talking about the Great Awakening, liberal social ideas from abroad, and romantic beliefs in human perfectibility fostered the rise of voluntary organizations to promote religious and secular reforms, including abolition and women's rights. You know, that's, I don't want to get into a religion theology class right here, but human perfectibility is secular humanism. That is not what created the Great Awakening.
That's correct, but that's what kids will be taught. The version that you just cited.
So, do you have some other examples of things that are going to resonate with parents out there? Because
yes, I do. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I do. I think it's really important for everyone to understand the College Board is a private organization. This is not a public organization. This is a private organization. Its president is the most polarizing figure in American education today, Mr. David Coleman. And I think people ought to know, we don't actually know who wrote this framework. The authors are anonymous. We don't know who wrote it. And what it's really doing, and here's the connection to Common Core, it's circumventing the 10th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. A private organization is imposing a curriculum, and we don't even know who wrote it, and there's a lot we don't know about, a huge amount we don't know about the process that went into creating it, on to local districts. And you said before, people have just got to be vigilant and speak out about this. There's still enough time, but just barely. They've got to speak out now.
We don't know what's in it, and we are restricted. And if we try and find out what's in it, the school districts that we love and our kids go to may be harmed in the process and won't be able.
The exam. You certainly can find out what's in the framework by simply going to the places we've talked about.
Right, but
That's easily available. The exam, however, the one existing sample exam, well, that's not available for public scrutiny.
Wow.
And Tamara, this is exactly like Common Core. It's private people coming up with something through a shadowy, opaque process and imposing it on schools all over the country to the complete detriment of parental rights over education.
And this College Board, is it a nonprofit?
Yeah.
Non-government association.
That's
So,
correct.
so our children are now being. I hope people understand the grasp of that. No longer is your education even through your government. We used to talk about government schools. This is even more concerning, and it should be. So they need to call their state legislators. They need to call their county or their district superintendents and their board members.
And their state board members.
And state board members.
State board members, state board chairman, because they would have the power to do something to demand to the College Board that they are not going to accept this.
Why isn't there a lawsuit?
Well, lawsuits are a hard thing to do because the problem is finding the people who have standing to do it, to bring the suit. Also, even if you could survive all of the motions to dismiss, it would take years. And we don't really have years. We need to have grassroots action on this.
Okay. I mean, to me, this is such... Our congressional members as well should be able to attack this.
Well, actually, there are some people in Congress who are very concerned about it. We know that Dick Morris had Representative Virginia Fox from North Carolina on her show the other day, on his show, and she was very upset about it. She's on one of the education committees in the House, and she promises to bring it to the attention of Representative John Klein from Minnesota, who is the chairman of the House Education Committee, and she's interested in having a hearing on this. So that could be very effective, because if people remember from 20 years ago, back in the mid-'90s, the history standards, the national history standards that came out that were supposed to be wonderful, and schools were supposed to use these things, and Lynn Cheney actually blew the whistle on that, because they were very much like this framework. They were very anti-American and politically correct. And the U.S. Senate passed a resolution opposing these U.S. history standards 99-1, and that pretty much killed them. So if we had some action in Congress, we could have the same result.
Jane, I want you to, both of you, if you can stay on after the show, after we go off the air. I've got, you've just hit something with me, and I think we may have a possibility, an angle we can do this with a resolution. So I want to talk to you about that as soon as we get off air. Appreciate both of you coming on. You said we would have information that would last an hour, and I'm now wishing we had at least another 30 minutes. It's like peeling back the onion. We hear that analogy, but there's so much. Parents tend to stay back. They feel like they're intimidated. We're afraid we can't remember the dates of a history or event, or so we tend to stay back and allow the experts to have this control and this exercise this agenda over our children. We can't. We just simply can't. If I can implore anything to you, whether you're a teacher, faculty member, just concerned citizen, get involved. Start making some phone calls. You don't have to be belligerent. Just ask questions. And maybe those questions can cause someone else to think as well. Jane Robbins has been my guest today. Jane is with the American Principals Project. Jane, contact information for you.
They could get me at my email, which is J, the letter J, Robbins with 2 B's, at AmericanPrinciplesProject.org. Principles is spelled P-L-E-S.
Thank you. Larry, contact information for you.
Most people send me emails to Krieger, Krieger, Larry, at hotmail.com. KriegerLarry@hotmail.com.
I thank you both for drawing this to our attention. Because of you, other people, pundits, journalists, radio spokespeople are now talking about it. Because of you, a nation really, truly, honestly might be saved. Thank you so much for what you've done. And to everybody out there listening, it is time for you to step up, be encouraged, and never be complacent.